Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us. We are happy to have you back on another Office Hours webinar. My name is Stacey Hatch. I am a product marketing manager here at GUIDEcx, and we have a fantastic team of product team members here to talk with you today about what has released in this last month, what the team has been working on. You can see some familiar faces here. We have Cam, Phil, and Chris, all who have been attendants on Office Hours before. But for any of you who may be joining new for the first time, I will give them each just a minute to introduce themselves to you, starting with Cam.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. Yeah, my name is Cameron Crossett. I'm a product manager here at GUIDEcx, and I work with a team that is mostly focused on trying to help you as providers work more efficiently inside of our platform so that you can invite customers and do all your daily tasks with your projects and tasks and automation, that type of stuff. So thanks for being here.
All right, thanks, Cam. I'm Phil. I think I've spoken with a number of you before. I work with a product team at GUIDEcx that is responsible for your customer, so the end user and how they engage. So that's our intent, is to help them engage better with you.
And then I'm Chris Alaiua, I'm product director over our wisdom pillar. So if it involves any type of data, then I'm trying to help you out, whether it's collecting data through forms, processing data through custom fields, or analyzing data through reports, even automating data through Recipe Builder. That's what I focus on.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. To give you a little bit of a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today, Cam will be kicking us off with a new feature that's available in our labs experience, the ability to customize your individual project table. Phil will be talking about customer roles, which is a feature that will be coming very soon to the labs experience as well, that allows you to get the right customer users invited to your projects. And then we'll have Chris coming in last with the NetSuite integration that the team has been hard at work on, as well as talking about some of the few API updates that have been made over the course of the last month. As always, this is an opportunity for us to hear from you as well. So please leave any questions that you may have in the chat, and we'll answer those live with the team. And we'll kick it off with Cam.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And there we go. So first, right out of the gate, let me say thank you to everybody that's on here that joins and participates in these webinars. Really excited to talk about project table dynamic columns today. So before I get into what's new with these dynamic columns, I do want to take you back just a couple of months ago. I was on here for our office hours in the early summer talking about our brand new project table. And so hopefully you guys remember that. That was when we released the new version of essentially the home screen of the application where you see all your projects listed out. And we did a new update to that where it was built on a whole new UI, was more performant, and had a new project creation process that drives to invite more users, all those types of things. And that was also where we introduced a horizontal scroll. And so some of the feedback that we got during that time period was, hey, I really love this. It looks clean, it looks fresh, but there are parts where I don't like this scroll because there's data that's really important to me, and now it's off of my screen. And we get that different users have different experiences. I'm on a monitor where I don't have any scrolling, but there's others that if you're on a laptop, you'll have a lot of scrolling. And so we said, okay, let's listen to our users, and we held off on pushing that out to as a general release that everybody would have to use until we came up with this dynamic columns that we're going to talk about and show you today. So I just want to put that out there, kind of set the table, because for me, it's very exciting to have our beta and our labs feature working that way. And hopefully that's encouraging for you as well, that you can see we do listen, we do hear you, and we try to iterate during that process to make it the best that it can be. So with that, let's talk about this dynamic columns. So again, this is still in that vein to have a more performant experience and to lay the foundation for a more customized experience inside of GUIDEcx. And one of the biggest things with this feature and this enhancement is that it's all individual based. So there's a lot of features that we build that just apply to the entire organization as a whole, that if it's on for one, it's on for everybody. And while that's true that you flip the switch for this as an organization, every individual user has the ability to customize their view. We realize that some power users and admins are going to want one view, whereas project managers are going to want a different view. Someone that is maybe on your CS team that uses GUIDEcx is going to want a view that's more customer focused and filtered and organized that way. And so that's what I love is that this is an individual experience. And then the next question is when is this out? And the answer to that is that it's out right now. This is in our labs feature. I'll go over how to activate it, but this is something that as soon as you're done off of this call, you could get in, activate this and dive in. So let's take a look at it. So this is the labs experience. Again, you got here by coming to admin menu and labs, and we see this project table dynamic columns. And so the one thing to note is that you do have to have the new project table enabled in order for the dynamic columns to work. It's built on top of this. So if we go to our list of projects, we can see our new project table. And this is this is something that I'm pretty excited about, because as I come in here with this view, if I determine, hey, I want, I don't need to see cash value, or I don't need to see brand because I don't use those, I can just click on columns and I can come over here to brand and I can turn that off. And maybe cash value, I don't use that. I track that in a different spot. And you can see that those disappear off of here. Maybe I don't use action items in the system. And so I want to turn that off. And then maybe I want to be more customer focused as opposed to project name. I can take this and I'm going to grab and drag and drop this to where customer is going to be here on the far left. And then I'm going to have a project name. And let's say I want my PM over here as well. I can just snap that into place. And now I've got a view that is much more customized to what I want. I know of one customer in particular that last update is a big deal for them. And so I'm going to move that one all the way over here because they want to know when was it last touched, have that indication that I'm going to get in and take a look at it. And then I'm going to just turn off a few more of these. Again, my monitor, I can have all of those, but maybe I don't want some of that clutter. And now I've just got what I want right here. I'm going to move my start date as right there. So again, this is the dynamic columns, and I'm really, really proud of it. The team that I work with did a fantastic job. Hopefully it's intuitive. It's one of those things that we've had experiences and other people have experiences in other softwares of adding and removing columns and reordering, and we tried to make it as intuitive as possible. And I will say the biggest question that I've gotten about this is, will this be able to have custom fields in it? Because you'll notice that right now, these are just the defaults that are there. And the answer to that is, in the future, that is our plan, is to incorporate custom fields into this, to where this list here would have the standard fields, but then it would also incorporate custom fields that are unique to your organization and be able to have those in this table and interact. As it stands right now, That is not the case. That will have to be a future enhancement, but we wanted to lay the groundwork and the foundation for it right here. And there's a few other things that are on deck before we get to that for my team helping out, but that is in our near vision or short-term vision of what we would like to do with this table. So thanks,
Yeah.
Stacy.
Yeah, a question for you. Will the changes that you make to your project table persist across sessions? So if I come out and I come back in, will it be my most recent customized table view?
It will. Yep. It will persist for you.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks so much for sharing, Cam. And I think Cam mentioned an enhancement around eventually having custom fields. We'll be excited too to see this kind of experience throughout the application. So when you get to templates, things that you can do to kind of add, remove, reorder columns kind of across the experience in the application is on the roadmap. So we're excited to see those enhancements in the future. All right, Phil.
All right. Thanks, Stacy. So I've been at GUIDEcx at about 2 years, and I've heard a lot of feedback from customers around the desire for customization. So it's nice to see that come to fruition with the project table. As I mentioned earlier, I'm responsible for the customer's experience, so how your customer engages with GUIDEcx. I'm going to talk through how why engagement is important and what we've done to help your customer better enable your customer to better engage with GUIDEcx. So we know that higher engagement equals better and faster onboarding projects based on data that we have. Where there's 2 or fewer customer users in a project, we know that they complete at an on-time rate of about 61%. There's obviously a scale there, but 5 or more users is kind of that sweet spot where projects complete at an on-time rate of 91%, so significantly higher. And that's really the time to value for your customer, and then also for you, is enabling those projects to be completed faster. We also know that every onboarding project is different. Coming back to that customization vein, we've added flexibility into who you invite and how you invite users. Based on our experience and what we know about the industry, to make onboarding successful, we suggest 3 roles: the executive sponsor, the program manager, and the power user. The executive sponsor is often the check signer or that person who needs a high-level overview. Program manager may be running multiple implementations at the customer site. And then the power user is that GUIDEcx power user on the customer side who is really in there doing the day-to-day implementation. So I'm going to walk through what that looks like in the product. So once you spin up a project, you'll add customer team members here the same way you've done it before. However, these new 3 roles will automatically populate, as I mentioned: executive sponsor, program manager, and power user. In the event you need to rename one of those roles, let's say you call a power user a project manager, you can rename that. And let's say that you need 4 customer roles in order for the project to be successful. You can add another role here. You can edit the team member and call that data analyst or whatever it is that you need to. So again, it gives you that flexibility to rename executive sponsor as check signer, program manager as project manager too, whatever it is that you need. So you'll go through that process of adding first name, last name, email address. I'm going to invite the executive sponsor as a full project member. And then again, program manager, project manager, data analyst, I would add those, and I can set those project views either as full, encompass, or my tasks only, whichever is preferred for that user. So in addition, we've changed the invite pending to make that more clear. Before, it was a little bit of a scroll inside that window, which was a little bit of an interesting experience, but we've changed that. We've also moved the customer team tab to the top to make that more visible for you and your customers. You'll have the internal team and other things down below. So once I receive that email for that executive sponsor, you'll see that email has come in right here. I'm going to click on View Project, open that in an incognito window, and you'll see that this view here changes once that user clicks on that invite link. So you'll see exactly when they've accepted the invite. So That's really the intent here. There's a couple best practices. Number one is to make sure that your project is completely set up before you invite that first user. So if I know I need an executive sponsor, program manager, project manager, and data analyst, I want to make sure that that is all set up before I invite the first user, and that the titles are updated as well. That way, when the executive sponsor comes into GUIDEcx for the first time, they have an expectation. You can set the expectation upfront of who they need to invite. The other key best practice is this really takes the onus away from you and puts it on your customer. So let's say that Cameron was my executive sponsor and I'm having a kickoff call. I can say, Cameron, this is the customer team. We know that we need these 4 roles in order for this project to go as well as it possibly could. So between now and our next call, I'd like you to invite a program manager on your side, a project manager, and a data analyst. And then we can work with them as we get further down the project. So when is this available? This will be available in that same area in labs that Cameron mentioned. We anticipate it being Friday for users who do not have resource management and time tracking enabled. For those customer users who have, again, resource management time tracking, that'll be available later in the quarter. And it also, for new projects, is where you'll see these 3 roles, or these 3 roles spin up. For existing projects, the headers will be editable as they are now, but you won't see these new roles. We didn't want to add that into existing projects and add a lot of noise there. So really excited to see how this impacts engagement across your customers, and really interested to hear feedback. As I mentioned, that'll be available on Friday in the labs experience. So Stacey,
there's a great question from Will, and I have to say, Will, it sounds like you guys are already implementing some of these best practices around inviting the right users to your project, so kudos. But Will says, if we already capture the exec sponsor, program manager, etc., on their Salesforce opportunity, could a recipe automatically add those personas into those roles on the project?
Yeah, I can jump in and help a little bit with that one.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's where kind of the handoff from Phil to me happens. The answer is not yet, but we really want it. So if you look at api.guidecx.com, you'll notice that we have the ability to get details about users, but not yet to be able to post edits around users or to create new users. Now, there's a variety of reasons why you're not the only one who wants that. So it is something that we have prioritized into the short-term roadmap. I would expect a matter of weeks, not months, before we would be able to do that. One of the examples that we're prioritizing within that is to be able to choose that project view that he has in the UI and be able to opt in individual users to take advantage of Compass. That's something we've found double the engagement. So it's something that we want to make easy for you inside of Recipe Builder, and we're excited to deliver it soon.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Will. And thanks, Phil, for your work. We're super excited to see that in labs on Friday. And leave your feedback as you're going through within labs. Just a reminder that under the lab setting, there is a link to our product board where you can give us feedback and give great suggestions like Will just gave to enhance the experience. All right, Chris. Let's hear about NetSuite.
Awesome. Great job, Phil and Cam. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the question we just received and a lot of the other good news we have to celebrate around listening to you, what you want in the API, what you want in Recipe Builder. And this is just a short list of the many things we've changed since the most recent office hours. So you now can get project status change reasons inside of the Get Project API. So you can kind of see it right here, where we give you not only the description, but some of the comments and details there. We've also just finished up some work around customer satisfaction or CSAT surveys. So whether you do that at the project level or the milestone level, you'll be able to pull that in via API and feed that to any place that you want to report on or trigger action on. We've also expanded what we can do around custom fields and merge tags. One of the biggest use cases here is that maybe in Salesforce or NetSuite or in HubSpot, you had a unique field that exists only for your business, and you really wanted to be able to show that inside of the GUIDEcx UI. So being able to sync that in both directions is what you now can do through some new recipes completed by the integration team. And that kind of lays the foundation for the thing we mentioned earlier of really wanting to let you pull those custom fields into the add, move, and remove tables that Cam showed a little earlier. Finally, around milestones, we've heard from people how sometimes they just want to be able to import a project plan from a totally different system. And we can already let you change the position of tasks in a template, but we also want to make it really easy for you to create milestones too. And so if you have any type of recipe you've been dreaming up around importing plans, you can do that now. But one of the last changes that we've made is around time tracking. In the past, you've been able to pull time tracking records, but in that response, you haven't been able to see the time tracking category of that record. Well, we completed that work so that we could build this, the NetSuite integration. And the reason why a lot of people care about this is that when they're thinking about ERP systems or PSA systems and trying to figure out how to make sure that invoicing is really simplified, there's been a lot of people who are suffering through manual processes, spreadsheets. Sometimes you can have vice presidents or C-level executives going through and pulling together all those different time tracking details so that an invoice can be sent out. And that's crazy. So what we've done is made it so that you can take any of the time tracking you're doing in GUIDEcx and make sure that it can be injected as item fulfillment in NetSuite. So if we're looking for an example right here at a sales order in NetSuite and a line item, we can see that of the 308 hours we have for professional services, we took those 2 hours and pushed it over through our monthly sync in Recipe Builder so that you can just incrementally recognize revenue for that. Now, the reason why this matters so much is if you look at the process that is used for this most of the time, what happens usually is that there's quite a bit of difficult handoff between the sales team who closes a deal, the finance team who's trying to create an invoice, and your teams that are trying to fulfill all the details that have been sold. And so all that you need to do now, instead of creating spreadsheets and sending them over, is to connect your NetSuite account, which I'll show you here in just a moment, and install the recipe that we've already published to the community. So let's take a look at what that process looks like. So the first thing you would do is come into Recipe Builder and go to the community, and you'll notice that of the many systems you can integrate with in Recipe Builder, that NetSuite is one of our featured systems that we really want to make easier for you. So I can simply just click on NetSuite, or I can search for NetSuite up at the top, and we'll see our primary recipe that's been published to the community here, where I want to bulk sync those time tracking details over as item fulfillment. So as I install that into my account, what you'll notice is that there's a couple main things that I've got to get done to have this work. And the first thing is to make sure that when I go and I actually search for things in NetSuite and I try to post new things to NetSuite, that I'm connected well. And this video right here is the secret. What could have been pages and pages and pages of documentation on how detailed permissions are set can be sorted out for you in 9 minutes. So for example, we can go through this and see, okay, I'm supposed to go to this option, activate these checkboxes in NetSuite, and I'll be all set without having to guess on what is really required to have Recipe Builder work. So that's all in our help article, knowledge base under NetSuite setup. And then after you have that done, we'll be able to kick back all the IDs and secrets and keys that you need to have these systems speak to each other. So in the past, some people might have been intimidated by this step, but it really is something you're going to get done very quickly now. And then we have a separate help article saying that now that you have it all set up, how do I customize it? And this will take you through, you know, those aha moments where you're like, oh yeah, I saw my first set of hours get pushed through. And after you have that recipe installed, there's one main thing that I really want to point your attention to, and it's right down here. This ID is the ID that we're going to try and sync GUIDEcx hours back into. So these are the sales orders and service orders and contract IDs that line up with your work. So right now, our suggestion is to start off with just an individual sales order and make sure that everything is processing as you would expect. But then as you try to really scale this out, these are our extra tips. So the first one is to make sure that your timing is matching up with your live process. Now, most of the time we see that people want to line it up with a monthly sync. And if that's what fits for you, great. So that's how the trigger's configured already. But we do suggest that you activate the option which says that people on the team are limited to only entering time for the most recent month that is eligible to be synced. And that just helps avoid a bunch of overcomplicated reconciliations. The next thing is to make sure that in GUIDEcx for your time tracking categories, that the category name and description matches exactly with spacing, commas, capitalization, what the product name and the description is in NetSuite for an individual line item. As long as these things match across systems, you're going to be able to fulfill the exact correct type of thing. And then in our testing of this, the most common thing that we've found is that the systems are actually not broken, that there is no bug, but that real life comes up. And a lot of you are on this call because you'll do what it takes to give people a good customer experience. And sometimes that results in sometimes just going a little over the estimated hours. So if GUIDEcx ever tries to fulfill more hours than were allocated for a line item, we'll send you this email so that you can then pick up with our reports and go into the detailed time tracking information and figure out how you want to take next steps with overages. If you ever are saying, hey, that's hard-coded ID was a good start, but I would love it if I could actually fulfill items across dozens and dozens and dozens of different contracts. You have a couple options. You can take step 2, which is skipped by default. And if you want to have your team just throw in the ID into a custom field, you're all set. Or even better, if you want to avoid the manual step of filling in a custom field, I would suggest that you take that NetSuite sales order ID, actually pass that over to your CRM, whether that's Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever you want. And then with the recipes we already have to automate project creation, we can just pass along that SOID during the automated project creation, and you'll be all done. So that's what we have going on. We hope that you take a look at it. Even if you don't want to track hours, even if you just want to track task completion or milestone completion, we hope this makes your life easier in invoicing.
This is awesome, Chris. Thanks to you and the team who works hard to get integrations out the door. If you're on the call, you've probably noticed that over the summer, we've been pushing out integrations of the week, and NetSuite kind of fulfills that integration campaign for us. We'll continue to build out, but we're grateful for your team and all the work that they've put into building these. I'm especially excited about the API edit to allow for those CSAT survey responses, because with recipes that have been built, you think about Slack or Teams, an awesome enhancement is as soon as your customers are submitting those CSAT surveys, to send out a Slack, send out a Teams message to your team so that you can engage them immediately upon their response and address anything negative, and also thank them for taking the time for positive responses. So I love that, and how that building out of the API helps influence the integrations that are built and the customizations you can make in Recipe Builder. That is all we have for you guys for the month. Thank you for joining. Thanks for the questions. As always, please reach out with any additional questions and feedback. And we look forward to talking with you again soon. Have a great rest of your day.